A warm welcome and back again to the class of biology. In the previous class we talked about angiosperms, and today again we will continue with the angiosperms, and of course other than that we will talk about alternation of generation. Right, so a quick recap of what we did in the last class. We talked about angiosperms, the general characteristics of angiosperms, in which we said that these are those plants that bear seeds, and the seeds that these plants have are not naked, not exposed, they are covered, right, covered with a fruit, right. And then we said that these are the most recent of the highly evolved plants, and they are abundant, they are conspicuous, they are visible, they are found in varied habitats. We talked about the different habitats where they are found, in which we discussed that in the sea there are just 2 species that are found in the sea. Other than that, at very high altitudes they are found, and they are found even in the snow-capped mountains of Antarctica, where throughout the year the mountain is snow-capped, right? So they are found over there also. Then of course in the plains, a variety we see in the plains, then in the deserts, etc. Right? Their sporophylls are called, they are aggregated or turned into flowers. So these are also called flowering plants, right? So they are called flowering plants because the sporophylls are organized into flowers, right? And then we discussed that flower is the reproductive part of a plant, and so the male and the female reproductive organs are also found in the flower, right? The flower you studied earlier has 4 walls, the outermost being the sepals, then the petals, then the stamen and the pistil, right? So stamen is the male reproductive organ. We drew the structure also in the last class, and we talked about the anther and the filaments as the part of the stamen, and inside the anther are present the pollen grains. If we cut it transversely, if we cut the anther transversely, we will find a powdery substance, which is, there are 4 chambers, and inside that you find the pollen grains, right? So pollen grains are the male gametes, right? We talked about the structure of the pollen grains. It has an entyme and an exine. We talked about the generative nucleus. We talked about the tube nucleus, right? And we discussed how the pollen tube grows from the pollen grain once the pollen grain reaches the stigma, right? So the pollen tube grows only after pollination. So when it reaches the stigma, how it grows, and then it enters into the embryo sac, right? Then we talked about the female reproductive organ, that is the pistil, which is divided into stigma, style and ovary. Inside the ovary are the ovules, and the pollen tube enters the ovule. Ovule, there are many integuments, right? We discussed the structure of the ovule as one end where there is a slight opening present, that is called the micropyle, and just the opposite part of the micropyle is the chalaza, right? So one end is the micropylar end, the other end is the chalazal end, right? And in that we talked about the presence of the antipodals towards the chalazal end, and the presence of the egg apparatus towards the micropylar end, right? So egg apparatus has there are 3 elements in the egg apparatus. The central one is the egg cell or the female gamete, right? The 2 cells or elements that are on the either side of the egg cells, they are the synergids, right? And then the 3 elements just opposite to the egg apparatus, that is in the chalazal end, are the antipodals, right? Then we talked about the details of the antipodals and the synergids. What do they do? Then we talked about fertilization, and we discussed that in angiosperms double fertilization takes place, right? There are 2 male gametes, one fuses with the secondary nucleus forming the triploid endosperm, and the process is known as triple fusion, and the other fuses with the egg cell, right, to form the zygote, right? So since fusion takes place twice, so it is double fertilization. And in the secondary nucleus fusion, there are 3 elements fusing, that is 2 polar nuclei which fuse to form a secondary nucleus, and the 3rd element is the male gametophyte. Since 3 elements are fusing, so that is called triple fusion, right? Then we talked about the presence of xylem and phloem. In xylem, vessels are present. In phloem, the companion cells are present, right? So that's about the structure, the characteristics of the angiosperms that we studied. And now we move further, right? Now, when we talk about angiosperms, they are further divided into still smaller groups, we can say. They are divided into two subgroups, right? Now, these two subgroups are dicotyledonous and monocotyledonous plants, right? So, two subgroup, I will just write the short form. Otherwise, it is dicotyledonous and monocotyledonous, right? So, I'll write here dicot and monocot, right? So that's the short form, dicot and monocot plants. You've already studied about the dicot and the monocot plants. And these plants are, we can say they are divided into these two categories based on their embryonic leaves, right? Embryonic, inside the embryo, embryonic leaves, which are also known as cotyledons, right? So cotyledons, based on that, they are called dicotyledonous and monocotyledonous. Now let's break the word. Cotyledon, everybody knows now, that's the embryonic leaf. Cotyledons, di means two, so plants having two cotyledons, and mono means one, so plants having one cotyledon, right? So the first difference we see under the dicot and the monocot is that the dicots have two cotyledons, right? And the monocots have one cotyledon, right? They are the seed leaves, embryonic leaves, right? And now, again, now we continue with the other differences. They're very simple differences you studied. We will not go into the anatomical details just now unless we study the anatomy of the plants, right? The stems and the leaves, then we will discuss it further. Otherwise, when we look at the leaves of the plant, you studied there are two types of leaves. One is the leaf with reticulate venation or net-like venation, and the other leaf is a leaf with parallel venation, right? So the dicots, they have reticulate venation, right? Net-like, when you draw a leaf, you draw the midrib, then you draw the veins which further are divided, so that forms a net-like structure in the leaf, so that is reticulate venation. And here it is parallel venation. Parallel venation. What is venation? The distribution or the arrangement of veins in the leaf, right? So that is venation. So let's show it like this here. These are, you can see these are all parallelly arranged, right? So parallel venation, right? So that is another difference between the dicots and the monocots, right? Other than that, now we will just talk about the differences, the visible differences. That is, by looking at a plant, how will you be able to differentiate a plant, whether the plant is a monocot or a dicot, right? By just looking at the leaves, right? Now, if you find the plant having reticulate venation, leaves having reticulate venation, so you will know that it is a dicot plant, right? And a leaf having parallel venation, so that's a monocot plant. Now, other than that, we also find that the flowers, now that is about the leaves, right? Now, third difference is regarding the flowers. Now, if you look at the flowers in dicots, we find that a dicot flower is pentamerous or tetramerous. Now, what does this mean? Pentamerous or tetramerous means the floral parts are found in a set of, penta means 5, right? Or if it is tetramerous, then it's in a set of 4, or their multiples, right? So, for example, if I draw a flower here and I draw 5 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals, right? So that is a pentamerous flower, right? Similarly, 4 or multiples of 4, like 8, right? So that is a pentamerous or a tetramerous flowers. So dicot plants will have flowers which will be pentamerous or tetramerous or in the multiples of 5 and 4. Whereas if we look at a monocot flower, we will find that these monocot flowers, they are usually trimerous or they are found in sets of 3 or its multiples. Right, so just draw it over here, a set, something like this, right? So the floral parts are trimerous or tetramerous. So I'll write it here, trimerous, and here it is pentamerous. Now if we look at the roots of the, I'm skipping out the anatomical differences between the two. We'll do that later. Right, now if we look at the roots of these plants, right, now if, for example, if a plant is pulled out, right, and the roots are visible, now looking at the roots you have to identify whether the plant is a dicot or a monocot. So a dicot plant has taproot system, whereas a monocot plant has adventitious root. Right, what is the taproot? Where the primary root is present throughout and secondary and tertiary roots arise from the primary root. Adventitious root, from one point the roots arise, there is nothing like the primary root which may remain throughout. So that is the adventitious roots. Right. Again here, now if we look at the leaves of the dicots and monocots, we find that the arrangement of leaves on a dicot, they are dorsiventral, right? Dorsiventral means they are arranged like this. Dorsal, upper surface, and ventral is the lower surface, right? So in the dicot plants or the plants having dorsiventral leaves, the number of stomata that are present on the leaves are more towards the lower side or the ventral side, right? So that is the dorsiventral leaves. Why not more on the upper side? Because the direct rays of the sun, the heat of the sun would lead to more loss of water, right? So they are found on the ventral side, right? So more sun on the dorsal side and lesser sun they get on the lower side where more number of stomata are present. Whereas if we talk about the monocot plants, in monocot plants the leaves are arranged like this, or we can say that they are isobilateral, right? Isobilateral like this, right? Isobilateral, both the surfaces are equally exposed to the sunlight and equal number of stomata are present on both the surfaces, right? Since they're equally exposed, the equal number of stomata are present on both the surfaces, right? So that's about the differences, the visible differences between dicots and monocots, and I told you once we will study the internal structure of the stems and the roots, then we will go into more details regarding the differences between the dicots and monocots. Right, now we will start with the alternation of generation. Now this alternation of generation has already been, when you studied the life cycle of the various plants, you studied the alternation of generation also in that, right? But anyway, since that's in your syllabus, so we will continue this as another separate part, alternation of generation. Right, so alternation of generation. Here what happens is that the different plant groups, they complete their life cycles in different patterns, right? And we studied various plant groups. We studied about the algae, we studied the biophytes, the pteridophytes, the gymnosperms, and we completed the angiosperms also, right? So they complete their life cycles in different patterns, right? So what happens is there are two phases of the life cycle, where one phase is called the sporophytic plant body, and the other part is known as the gametophytic plant body. Right? A sporophyte is a diploid plant where two sets of chromosomes are present, and a gametophyte is haploid in nature where only one set of chromosome is present. Right? Now, when we talk about the chromosomes, we've already discussed in the previous classes, diploid is represented as this and haploid is represented like this, right? Or it could be capital N also, right? So, diploid. Now, these two phases of the life cycle, they alternate with each other. So, these two phases, they alternate with each other. That is why it is known as alternation of generation. Right? So, we will start with the first type that is known as haplontic life cycle. Right? So, the first one is haplontic. Right? So, haplontic, let's take the first half of the name. Right? In haplontic, what happens is that the haploid plant has the dominant, it stays for a longer span of time in the whole life cycle, right? So that means haploid is a gametophyte. So most of the time it is the gametophyte only that is found to be visible, right? So that is why it is haplontic. So here what happens, this is a single vegetative individual or a somatic phase, right? And it is haploid and it is often called gametophyte, right? So it is haploid and it is called gametophyte. Haploid we represent as a single N having half the number of chromosomes, right? Now the haploid plant body, now this plant body, which is a gametophyte, the cells contain only half the number of chromosomes. These may be either unicellular or they may be colonial, living in colonies, or maybe multicellular also, right? It can multiply vegetatively and by accessory spores also, right? The meiospores, right? Ultimately, what happens is that it gives rise to gametes, right? So, there are sex organs that are present, right? And these give rise to gametes, right? So, there are two gametes that will be formed here. Let's say here gamete, here also gamete, right? So, the gametophyte, right? And then through the help of the sex organs, they produce gametes, right? Now, what happens is that these gametes, they fuse and they fuse to form a zygote. These gametes will fuse. So, I will write here fusion takes place and they form a zygote, right? So, a zygote is formed as soon as fusion takes place. Now, this zygote that is formed, it remains a single cell only, right? So, that means the zygote does not divide to grow further, right? It remains a single cell. It does not multiply itself, neither does it give rise to multicellular diploid structures, right? So, it does not multiply, it does not grow in size, right? So, it remains like this only inside the cage. And instead, what happens here? It may, we can say it takes some rest. Now, this phase of the life cycle is very, very short-lived, right? Because the zygote does not grow at all. So, this phase of the life cycle is very short-lived. And in that short-lived, time, what happens is meiosis takes place, right? So, what happens here? In the zygote, meiosis takes place, right? In meiosis, what happens is haploid cells are formed, right? Out of these, 3 degenerate, right? The 4 cells, daughter cells that are formed as a result of meiosis in zygote, 3 degenerate and they are only left with 1, right? Now, this one, it grows into a gametophyte, right? So, what do we see here is that this phase of life cycle, this phase of life cycle, this part of the life cycle is very, very short-lived. Only for very less time the diploid or the sporophytic part is formed, right? This is 2N, right? Very short-lived, and most of the time during the life cycle, the phase is a gametophyte. Since it's a haploid gametophytic phase for most time of the life cycle, so it is called haplontic life cycle. Right, now this curve here represents only a short lifespan, right? I mean, this particular phase, the sporophytic phase, which we can say is very short-lived. That is why it is represented by a short space over here, small space over here, and most of the space you see here is occupied by the gametophyte, right? So that's about the haplontic life cycle, and this life cycle is found in Spirogyra, in Chlamydomonas, Eulothrix, etc. Right? So it's a kind of a primitive life cycle found in these primitive group of organisms. Right? So that's the haplontic life cycle, and now we move on to the next life cycle, which is called the diplontic life cycle. Now from the name itself, you can just understand if you are saying diplontic, right? I told you take the first half of the name, DIP, dip, diplontic means diploid, right? So the diploid phase of the life is more as compared to the haploid phase, right? So that's the diplontic life cycle. Again here, in the diplontic life cycle, there is a single somatic phase or a vegetative phase, and it is diploid, and it is often called a sporophyte, right? So the diploid is known as the sporophyte, though the sporophyte produces gametes in its body or in the sex organs, right? So let's say here this is the sporophyte, right? It's diploid, so we represent it as 2N, right? Now the sporophyte is the main plant body, right? And then we will see here it has sex organs, right? On the sporophyte itself, the sex organs are present, right? And these sex organs, they produce gametes, right? So the diploid plant body, this plant body is elaborated by growth. Now in the haploid, we saw that the zygote did not divide at all, right? It remained a single cell, and instead what happened? Meiosis started taking place inside the zygote. Here nothing like that happens, right? The sporophytic plant body, it remains like that, and the body elaborates. Elaborates means it grows, right? Growth takes place in the diploid zygote. It may multiply vegetatively by producing accessory spores also, right? Then what happens is meiosis occurs in the plant body or its sex organs. Now here these are the sex organs, and meiosis occurs in the sex organs at the time of gamete formation, right? So gamete formation may take place over here, and what happens here is meiosis occurs. So meiosis occurs here, and this is the time where gamete formation takes place, right? And when we say gamete formation, meiosis and gamete formation, gametes are always haploid in nature, right? So what happens? The gametes are only haploid structures in the life cycle. So as a result, what happens here is that the gametes are formed. Gametes are formed, and this is the only part which is haploid, right? So gametes, they are n number. They have n number of chromosomes, right? Once these gametes are formed, then what happens is that fusion takes place, right? Fusion of the gametes takes place. Now from meiosis right up till here, this is the gametophytic phase. Once they fuse to form a diploid structure, right? What is the diploid structure that they form? They form a zygote, right? Zygote is again 2N, right? So the gametophytic phase, or the phase having only half the number of chromosomes, is from meiosis till before fusion. Again, a very short-lived phase, right? So the gametophytic phase is shorter and the sporophytic phase is much longer. The zygote further grows to form a sporophyte. The sporophytic phase is more longer as compared to the gametophytic phase. And the sporophytic phase is diploid. That is why this is called diplontic, right? So that's the second type of life cycle, diplontic life cycle. This is found to be in many of the larger group of organisms, I mean the plants, etc. Right? So in we can say the better developed, the angiosperms also have a diplontic life cycle, a highly evolved group of organisms, right? And now we are left with the last type of life cycle, that is known as the haplodiplontic, right? Haplodiplontic, it's very, very simple, right? Haplodiplontic means they have the gametophytic as well as the sporophytic phase of life are present equally. Haplodiplontic, right? So equal phases of life cycle are seen in both, right? So equal phases of the sporophyte as well as the gametophyte. Right, now this is observed in the bryophytes and the pteridophytes. You will see that they have a haplodiplontic type of life cycle. In this type of the life cycle, the life history, it involves the sequential reoccurrence of two well-developed somatic phases or vegetative phases, that is the gametophyte and the sporophyte. Two well-developed, right? So both the phases are equally developed or well-developed, right? So whenever they appear, they are not very short-lived, like the zygote in the diplontic life cycle, that is very short-lived, it does not grow at all, right? So here in this case, both the phases are well developed, and since both the phases are well developed, so it is known as the haplodiplontic life cycle, right? So the sporophyte possesses, of course, the diploid set of chromosomes, that is 2n. Meiosis takes place at the time of the formation of the meiospores, and they germinate to produce haploid gametophytes. Now these gametophytes, they produce gametes. The fusion product of the gamete leads to the formation of a diploid zygote. The zygote develops into a sporophyte, right? So it is clear that alternation of generation takes place over here in these organisms, right? Possessing the haplodiplontic type of life cycle, right? So equally grown are the sporophytes and the gametophytes in the haplodiplontic type of life cycle, right? So that's about all about the class of biology for today. We've completed alternation of generation, and we've completed the whole lesson now, and in the next class we will start with another lesson, right? So till then, finish your work, whatever assignments I give you, do that nicely, and of course post it to me on WhatsApp.